It's amazing, isn't it? Shivering with cold and sweating with heat. How quickly things change. Why hold on to any of it? And yet it's nice to figure out something that's cooling and something that's warming. That's the function of thought. Usually on the first day of a retreat, we talk about fresh listening. And how quickly the mind creates and has created in the past authority. Desire for authority and fear of authority and rebellion against authority. And is it possible to listen / speak, to speak and listen together without authority? Without creating it, establishing it, expecting it, fighting it. Replacing this constant habit of creating authority with the opening of listening and looking afresh. Which not only needs no authority, open listening needs no authority, it is impeded by hanging on to what one thinks is the right way due to clinging to authoritative views of others or of one's own opinions, ideas. All get in the way of an instant of open listening without the support or reinforcement of authority. But we'll go into all of that, not just today, but in the course of these 7 days. And a talk, if one is new here, one will find out a talk is sort of an outflow of what comes up as problems or questions or difficulties in meetings, single and group meetings. Hearing problems, working, listening to it, questioning it, sets up a wondering and questioning and working in this organism, and a thought flows out to maybe clarify, bring into fresh view what has come up on other occasions. It's not only that, but this is sort of, the meetings are the rivulets which feed the river. With water and gravel and nutrients and all the other stuff that rivers carry, rivulets carry. All kinds of refuse, things that people or nature has thrown away. Does nature throw away anything? It recycles. Dissolves and uses freshly the energy that comes out of dissolution. So, whatever is said in meetings may feed a talk, if there's something at times which you wish not to be ever discussed in a talk, and talks are, of course, what comes up remains anonymous, it's never revealed who said that. Of course, if we're in a group, we're already not anonymous, and then people may know whose question that was. But if you don't wish to hear it again in a talk, maybe in a recycled way, then please let me know. I also wish to say at the outset that I do not record verbatim what people say. The brain doesn't do that, but it sort of gets the gist of it. And sometimes a question combines with similar questions and sort of a new summary comes out in a talk. I'm mentioning this so that someone whose question is being used in a talk doesn't feel that they were not quite properly understood or misunderstood. The question may have been recycled. The important thing is not one's personal question, but is questioning relevant for all of us, no matter what the content may be at the moment. Is questioning ourselves and each other relevant to living from moment to moment in a fresh way? Listening to a talk or giving a talk requires energy. So if it's possible to use the time before the talk for a rest, this can be recommended, of course. Each one needs to find out their own energy needs and rest needs and walking needs. Not to be dismayed if one does fall asleep during a talk. I didn't talk about that last night, about sleep. I forgot that topic. A lot of people who come to retreat and have been coming to retreat over many years, and I don't mean the same people, but people, all of us coming to retreat, have generally reported that in the beginning there is great tiredness. One may feel exhausted just from recent or long time work or overwork, overstimulation. Being so hectically engaged, most of us, in a lot of deadlines. Deadlines at work, pressure there, and then coming home to family, and the demands there. Or all the leisure time activities we're engaged in, which at times also become a pressure, a burden on the system, on the nervous system, and the organism as a whole. And then finding oneself in a place which is so quiet, so absent with stimulation. No phones calling, no demands made upon one except the job in the morning or afternoon. No work challenges or demands that one is used to from home. Family, not here. The body may at first respond with sheer tiredness, wanting to go to sleep and sleeping. If you can sleep, you're lucky. Not everybody can sleep when they're tired. So to allow the body the rest that it feels it needs, and to at the same time watch it. Does one wake up, maybe after a few days of resting, does one wake up rested? Or one may feel that one is getting tired from sleeping. Sometimes people tell me, when I wake up, I'm more tired than when I lay down. So to watch it and to find an intelligent way to experiment with waking and sleeping, walking and sitting. Not strong arm methods based on ideas what a meditator ought to be doing, but getting in new touch with this body, which most of us are very much out of touch with. In touch with a lot of ideas and not in touch with how they affect the body, how it responds. Not even noticing responses, physical responses. And yet with more quietness, a bit more attention, which comes quite naturally in quietness and silence. Pains and fears and pressures and stress areas may be felt more clearly. More sensitively. And then, is there immediately a reaction, I shouldn't feel this way? Why so quickly, or thought so quickly jumps in. This is right, this is wrong, this feels good, this doesn't feel so good, therefore it must be changed. And maybe what just happened was the lifting of some numbness which held fear, pain, sorrow, grief in abeyance. Because the body knows how to get out of feeling constant pain or pain that's too much by becoming numb, insensitized, blocked. And if that lifts and more is felt, not just happy feelings, blissful feelings, but pain, fear, maybe anger, then to allow it to show itself. To watch it with some interest rather than immediate condemnation or grasping to keep it. Is it possible? We're talking about it, we're questioning it. So that the question keeps reverberating in us when we're with ourselves, as we put it, alone. So the sleep topic that was omitted last night, 9:30, the time sittings are over. If there is a lot of energy, then there's no need to think that because it is 9:30 and the timed schedule is over, one has to do this or that, go to sleep. Find out. Find out. Not just know, but wonder. It's all right to keep on sitting. It's all right to keep walking. We have a gaining moon. We'll have more and more light if the clouds permit it. To walk on the driveway, around the house. Or if one is deadly tired, exhausted, to go to rest, to lie down, to sleep. Regardless of what one may have previously heard or read about good spiritual practice. I have no idea what it is. And we talked, I think the coordinators emphasized that to be considerate, caring of people in one's room who are resting. They may not have slept during the night. So quickly the interpretation, the judgment comes in. Why are they sleeping? It's laziness. It's all ready-made already, ready packaged responses from how we've been responded to and how the environment responds, the teachers, the advertising, the movies. It's all there, ready to spring into action. He is this, she is that, and I am this, in comparison. To become aware of it and question. All these ready-made responses from the past. How deeply they affect us in our relationship with each other. So all of this, what has been said, leads to the main question of this opening talk, which is, can there be fresh listening, a new kind of listening and looking, which we may have never practiced before, maybe been able to practice. May not be in our repertoire of responses, a fresh listening. Which is different from habitual listening. And also, before going on with talking about listening, I want to say it's not just listening with the ears. It's also listening with the eyes, with the whole body, all of it. All of the skin on the outside and the internal organism listening afresh. So it is sort of a catchword, if you will, for an opening of this sensitive body with all of its sense organs. Establishing a fresh contact, not totally dominated by knowing what everything is, not totally dominated by expectation based on knowing what is going to happen, what this is, what somebody's going to say, what I am. Is it possible to bypass these strands, these deep strands of knowing and expecting, which make up our moment-to-moment existence? Expectation, knowledge, and reaction, ready-made reaction. So powerful, one has to be in awe of it when one comes upon it. And coming upon it is possible when there is an opening, which is no expectation. It doesn't know. It doesn't immediately react. It just reveals or allows things about ourselves and each other to be revealed freshly, in a new light. The light of learning. About ourselves and each other, which goes so hand in hand. That's the beauty of it. Learning about myself, I learn about you in a new way, not in a judgmental or prejudicial or sentimental or romantic way, but realistically finding out about how expectation of what I want, knowing what is good for me, knowing what is right, and responding so automatically from that how that separates. Encloses this organism in a capsule-like existence. And that holds true for me as well as for you. Knowing this capsule more and more, being more in touch with that kind of capsule living, reveals other people's capsule living and the consequences of it, the pain of it, the inability to relate softly, freshly, vulnerably, curiously. So is it possible to be aware moment-wise, glimpse-wise, how we hear things according to what we know, how our knowledge and expectation screws up our listening, tightens it, distorts it. To find it out as we go, not just for a moment and then it's all resolved for all eternity. Because the habits in this living organism are so deeply programmed, not just mentally, but physiologically, electrochemically, molecularly, held in place, and not so easily relinquished. Takes a lot of insight, patience, learning from each other, and also opening to each other in some kind of communication that is not just corrective or confrontative, critical, but exploring ourselves together, all of us putting into the same question: what are we as conditioned beings? Out of a mode of listening which is free to shed light. I always put it at first in form of a question: is that possible that we communicate like this with each other? But I also know that it is possible. Not from reading about it or clinging to convictions or opinions, but it happens. It's possible for you and me to communicate in a new way when there's care in the air, care about each other. Maybe you don't care about me at this moment, but I care about you. And I don't mean it personally. What is being said here are not personal statements. They're applicable to each one of us. If they weren't, what would be the use of putting a lot of energy in talking on a Sunday morning when we could be on a Labor Day picnic? Did you see the balloon this morning in the western sky? Seemed to barely hold its height, its altitude, and then sort of sink into what seemed right this western woodsy ridge. Then it was gone. What happened? A little bit later it was there again, this side of the ridge, very low. It was going to bump into this building. And then it lifted up again. Up and down. That's how we live. Into the woods and out of the woods. can there be some watching at the same time, some listening, which is not partisan, not taking a position, not limiting itself, but open to airplane and crows cawing, breath flowing, body vibrating, or body numbing, paining, or good feelings. It's all there in an open listening to what comes up in way of thoughts and sensations, rigidities, tensions, resistances, fears, angers. There's so much more at such a moment than what is at that moment often felt as exclusive and all-inclusive happening in this universe. My anger, my pain, my sorrow and grief. So overwhelming and flooding everything else, which is there nonetheless. The breathing is going on. The heart is beating, maybe faster, maybe skipping a few beats. And the airplane is roaring and the sun is coming through. The people around us, even when we feel we're so alone, so left out, so abandoned, we may be in a crowd of people who feel the same way. Or some of them don't feel that way and are open to embrace, but we don't see it. Too overwhelmed at this moment with our capsule full of chemicals, physical reactions, memories which feed the reactions, feed the state of anger or fear. No one's fault. It's no one's fault. I'm not blaming me or you. It's so futile, so unnecessary, so wasteful. It also impedes open observation. If I feel blameworthy, how can I observe what's there? It's already distorted. If I feel you are blameworthy, how can I really listen to you freshly? There's already this physical, chemical urge to blame and get satisfaction out of this blame. To realize the satisfaction in blaming. Do we realize it? Do we watch it? Satisfaction gleaned from blaming others. Who did it? Whose fault is it? Let's jump on him or her. Put them away. Take their life. Punish. And what really goes on in our behavior, not just my personal behavior, but our collective doings? Can we begin to see it as one huge collective consciousness, behavior consciousness, with all kind of various different outcroppings, which we call our individual personalities? They all crop out of this pool of human collective, undivided consciousness over the eons. Bigger and bigger collections of pretty much more of the same. Friendliness crops up, and hatefulness, and animosity, and protectiveness, caringness. divisiveness, resistance. All of this popping up out of this wholeness. And there for observation, for awareness, to see it freshly, to hear it in a new way. Not as mine or yours, but as amazing happenings in this universe of living organisms. Maybe this whole universe being a living organism. People have recently called the earth that, a living organism. And if one sees some of these shots, recently in a magazine there were incredible pictures of the astronaut who fixed the Hubble telescope and working precisely with incredible skill and knowledge on this intricate instrument. The background was this one earth peeping through the arms and joints and parts of this telescope. One whole earth in one whole solar system, in one whole galaxy, in one whole Milky Way. And on and on and on. And here we are feeling so abandoned, so lonesome, so cut off because of the way we think about ourselves. And because we think that way, the chemicals emote that way, the currents, that every thought is a result of and a cause of currents, electrochemical currents getting responses in the organism. They feel painful or blissful. So, why not suspend for a week or a day or a moment how we think about ourselves? Call it into question what we are. We can discuss it, not ad infinitum, because we have 10 minutes up to an hour, but sometimes seems we're discussing it ad infinitum, and that's all right. What we are. It doesn't seem like that, it seems like this. And to go into it with a new zest of exploration. Not just out on a Hubble telescope, I don't know how umpteen thousand miles away from the earth, but inwardly. A new exploration about how deeply I think about myself as a separate, cut-off being who is to be blamed or to be praised, who is responsible for her or his actions, inventions, ideas, good behavior, bad behavior. We think that way, and therefore we feel that way, and therefore we respond and react and relate that way. And if someone says, let's suspend this for a moment, this conviction, and not know what we are, we may be really off, thought may be off, deluded is what one of the traditions says. Deluded about itself. If that is being said, then at times something happens in the organism which we experience as fear, because our systems of belief and conviction hold the chemicals in some kind of order. And that order gets upset when the belief is questioned. and maybe begins to crumble, then there seems to be some internal chaos. The security of the belief system is upset, which is chemically felt as fear. Insecurity. And one can feel the disagreeable sensations of that, and also feel thought grasping for something new to hold on to, so that the chemical balance can be restored. I'm using chemicals this time, some other time I use a different term. It's always larger than the words. So the question was, can we for a day, a moment, or a week call into question what we are? And that what we know is true, or what we have believed and is telling us the truth. Because it was written by wise men, maybe even given by God to wise men to write down all these beliefs, which have helped us to maintain some semblance of security in all the insecurity we feel anyways. And to be in presence of fearful feelings, which usually result when safe structures are questioned or crumble. To feel that fear freshly, not already with an idea, oh my God, here's fear again. By now I should be done with it, should be over, I shouldn't feel this way. What good is the meditation? These kind of thoughts are not helpful to meeting a state freshly. Meeting it freshly meaning not bringing to bear what one knows from the past about it. Not knowing how to meet it. There it is. What is it? I don't know. I've called it fear, but that is a confusing term. I don't know what it is. Let it float around there and do its thing. Around there meaning the organism. How does it really feel when there's no prejudice against it, no bracing against it, no resistance against it? All of that comes from knowing what fear is. It's something I don't want, something undesirable. But what it really is, taken under a microscope, I don't know what it is taken under a microscope. People who make such kind of physiological, neurochemical research will tell you terms that you've never heard. That's what your fear is. It's not what we think, it's something that's going on. But thinking keeps it going. We can observe that in these several days, how thinking angry thoughts or anger-arousing stories keeps the anger going. Whereas wondering, why do I feel this way? And I mean a wondering question, a large, open question, not try to pinpoint a cause. That may change that story running. It isn't needed when I want to find out what's going on. I'm saying a lot of stuff in one talk. Well, we have a whole week to shed more light on what is not clear. What sounds so incomprehensible, maybe. Or so, well, meaningless. What are you talking about? I don't know. Whatever the response may be, that's what's happening right now. So at this moment, at the end of a lengthy talk, you don't have to remember it. What's meaningful will crop up again on its own. What are we? And just listening to the rattling of motors and moving of bodies and breathing. Are we the idea of what we think we are? A man, a woman, a meditator, an individual, a responsible one or an irresponsible one, praiseworthy one or blameworthy one. Is that what we are, all of these endless ideas about ourselves? Or can for a moment all ideas be suspended in not knowing what I am? And therefore maybe meeting freshly what comes up from instant to instant. We'll leave talking about authority for another time. And let the birds talk. We will end here for today.